Been quite a week for our Labour government after a spring statement that will push 250,000 people into poverty. Yeah, 250,000. The Chancellor is now likely to increase taxes in the autumn, apparently. Yes, the IFS think tank says a worsened economic forecast could force Rachel Reeves to demand more money from the British public. We have Treasury Minister James Murray joining us now to talk about that. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
I know you're keen to talk about extra money for transport in the north, and we will come to that. But obviously a lot of people concerned about this talk of further tax rises to come in the autumn budget, and it feels like that's inevitable now, is it?
Well, look, I'm not going to write future budgets here live on air, but we know that tax and spending changes are not the only way to strengthen the public finances. What's crucial for us is to focus on economic growth. We know that is the way to strengthen the public finances. And if you see what the OBR said alongside the spring statement earlier this week, they were clear that the planning reforms, the planning changes that we've been putting in place since we got into office are the real deal. They said, look, these planning changes will increase the number of houses being built, they will increase the size of the economy, they will put more money into the public finances, and that's how we can get our public finances to be in a stronger position. And it's why it's such a crucial part of our plan for change, to focus on that economic growth.
You're pinning everything on growth, but the growth forecast has been cut, hasn't it?
Well, we know that the growth forecast this year, 2025, as a result of global uncertainty, putting pressure on borrowing costs and so on, we know that that has been reduced. But if you look at 2026 and every subsequent year of this Parliament, the growth forecast has been increased. And as I said, the reason why the OBR have increased the growth forecast in every subsequent year is because of the changes that we've made to the planning system. And what that means in real terms is that the average person will be £500 better off by the end of this Parliament than they would have been under the Conservative plans that we inherited. So it makes a real difference to people's lives.
Although if we're talking about figures, though, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation have looked at figures and they say that living standards are set to fall across the rest of the decade. The average family will be £750 worse off in real terms by April 2029. And, you know, we thought that Labour came in on a pledge to keep more money in people's pockets. That doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, look at what the OBR said. So the OBR is the independent forecaster who looks at what the Treasury sets out and says what the impact is going to be. And they were very clear that they are forecasting greater economic growth from 2026 onwards. And as a result of that greater growth, which comes from the policy changes that we've made as a government since we were elected, there'll be £500 more in people's pockets. And,
OK, so but just to say, sorry, growth from 2026 onwards, but if we're looking at the picture, say, come autumn, when the budget's being done, that means that you won't have the growth then. With the economic picture at the moment, Rachel Reeves is not going to have the headroom, is she? So isn't it time to be honest with people and say, yeah, OK, we're going to have to put taxes up, we've got to find this money from somewhere?
Well, as I said, I'm not going to write budgets here live on air. You know, we are focused on getting the economy growing because we know that is the way to sustainably support public finances, to put more money in people's pockets. And what the OBR set out this week show that our plan for change is working. It is increasing economic growth. It is putting more money in people's pockets, putting the public finances in a stronger position. And that's why it's such an important part of what we're doing. You know, it's not tax and spend changes are not the only way to make the public finances stronger. Growth is central to our mission.
James Murray, can I ask you, when you were, a younger man and you wanted to get into politics, and here you are now, very senior position, what did you go into politics for? What was your real sort of motivation that you wanted to try and make a difference?
I wanted to make sure that people, whatever their background, had a decent life and every opportunity. And I want to make sure that that opportunity is available to all.
But how does it make you feel, then, that the government that you are part of, and you play a very senior role in this government, has just made plans that are going to put 250,000 people, including 50,000 children, into poverty? And those aren't figures that we're making up. These aren't figures even from an independent body. These are figures from the Department for Work and Pensions, the government's own figures. So it's not what you went into government for, then, is it? You're not giving people an opportunity. In fact, you're giving people less of an opportunity. You're putting more people into poverty.
Well, let me be really clear about those numbers. So those numbers are one half of the story. What those numbers don't take into consideration is the impact that our welfare reforms will have in terms of getting people into work and the additional premium that was...
You can't tell us that, can you? You can't tell us how many of those people are actually going to get jobs. Nobody knows that. There's no research to tell us how many of those people are going to fill some of the jobs that are out there. We don't know that. It's pure speculation.
Let me tell you how that works, because the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, who had their report on Wednesday alongside the spring statement, they will set out what the impacts will be in terms of getting people into work. And they've said they'll do that later in the year for the autumn budget and so on. But the driving principle behind the welfare reforms that we're making is to help get people into work, because we know that getting people into work is the best route out of poverty. So we want to give people the support they need to make sure that they can work, they can get a job and keep a job, because it's absolutely crucial to making sure those people have the dignity of work. It's crucial to making sure that the system is fiscally sustainable, and it's crucial to making sure that the support is there for those in greatest need.
Can we ask you, a lot of analysts are saying that a lot of this is to do with Donald Trump. We've heard the Chancellor and various other people say that the world has changed. I think what people are interpreting that as Donald Trump is back in the White House and he's imposing these tariffs. He's now said that the car industry will face 25% tariffs. That could affect some really important car companies, Jaguar, Bentley, Rolls-Royce here in the UK. This is Donald Trump, who's rolling out tariffs. Every week it sort of seems to be different tariffs, and we can't really predict what he's doing. Are we still going to roll out the red carpet, Tim? Does that sound like somebody who deserves a state reception and the red carpet?
Well, we're working intensively with the US to secure an economic deal, and those discussions about an economic deal are happening because the Prime Minister went to meet President Trump in Washington, and they agreed to work together on this agreement. And if we can get that agreement in place, that is absolutely the best way forward for British businesses and the British public.
But if there isn't an agreement and these tariffs are in place, would you agree that he probably doesn't deserve the red carpet rollout?
Well, look, we need to get that deal in place, and I'm not going to give a running commentary on what the negotiations are coming up with. We need to get that deal in place because that is the best thing for British businesses. British businesses don't want a trade war. They don't want an escalation in terms of tariffs and so on. We reserve our right to reciprocate. We reserve our right to use tariffs. We reserve our right to make sure that we are acting in the national interest, and we won't hesitate to do so. But at the moment, the best option, the best way forward for British businesses and the British public is to secure that deal, and we are working intensively to land it.
Okay. We've got to talk to you then about the boost, the extra money that's going for transport in the north, which is obviously a good thing. It's very much needed. There are criticisms, though, that it's just not going to be enough. We know that London received 2.5 times the investment than the north. If the north was a country, it would have been second only to Greece for the lowest level of investment in the OECD. It seems people in the north have been shortchanged, haven't they, when it comes to money coming in? This won't be enough to redress that balance.
Well, I think you're right that in the past, people in the north have been left with a Victorian-era transport system, and it's not what they need, it's not what businesses across the north need. What we're doing is rebalancing the way that investment works in terms of transport infrastructure. It's part of our plan for change to make sure that infrastructure is there. So we are shifting investment to make sure there is more investment in things like the TransPennine upgrade. So let me give you that example. TransPennine upgrade is something which people, using that service, Manchester, Huddersfield, Leeds, York, that improvement to that service is really crucial to people being able to get around, get to work, get to doctor's appointments. It's also really crucial to businesses to have the confidence to invest and help to grow the economy. Now, we know that the full benefits of the upgrade will deliver in the early 2030s, but we want to get on with it now. So we are announcing today, the Prime Minister is announcing an extra £415 million to accelerate those upgrades so that people will see benefits throughout every year of this Parliament. And that's part of improving lives for people right across the country and in the north through this investment. But it's also about making sure that businesses have the confidence to invest themselves, because that business investment is crucial for growth and putting more money in people's pockets.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much.
James Murray there, MP and Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury.